Reading. I'm Mrs Harrison, the reading lead. In this session, we'll be looking at what the reading journey at Biggin looks like, what phonics is and what scheme we teach here at Biggin, which is Read, Write, Ink, what happens after phonics in regards to reading, and how to help at home with reading. So the reading journey at Biggin. We begin in nursery with environmental sounds, stories and rhymes. When the children are ready, we will introduce phonics, and the children learn the picture name first. Once they're secure in picture names for single letter sounds, we then teach the sound and the corresponding grapheme. We then move on to digraphs. A digraph needs 2 letters to make one sound. A trigraph needs 3 letters to make one sound. Phonics can continue into Key Stage 2. Once the phonics code is cracked, whether that's Key Stage 1 or Key Stage 2, guided reading sessions and Reading Plus is introduced. We also foster a love of reading culture at Biggin, and we do lots of activities to encourage our children to read. So your child's reading journey really begins at home before they come to school. Exposing your child to a range of texts, traditional tales, rhymes and nursery rhymes is crucial. Modelling reading and how to use a book is very helpful in development. So looking at a book cover, looking at how to turn the pages, talking about stories so a child can sequence a story and answer basic questions to develop understanding. So talking about the characters in the story, asking the children to orally retell the story as well is a really good activity. Phonics. So what is phonics? The government specifies that a systematic synthetic phonics scheme must be in place to teach early reading. Synthetic is talking about the sounds and words, and systematic is an order. So the government is requiring all schools to teach a sound phonic scheme in a particular order. Systematic synthetic phonics is an evidence-based, structured approach to teaching children to read. This method of reading helps children to learn the relationships between the sounds, which we call the phonemes, of spoken language, and the letter symbols, which we call the graphemes, of the written language. So the phoneme is how we say it, and the grapheme is how we write it. Research has proven that this is a much more successful way to teach children to read, rather than analytical phonics, which is where you learn to read words. So there's lots of systematic synthetic schemes across the country, but at Biggin we follow Read, Write, Ink. It has been developed by Ruth Biggin, who is a lead in early reading. The scheme is also followed by lots of the schools in the MAT and many schools across the country. We are continually supported and trained by Read, Write, Ink staff, which helps to make sure that staff are up to date with their CPD. So nursery. Children are exposed to Read, Write, Ink when they enter our nursery. Children begin to understand the aspect of a sound, so as mentioned before, identifying environmental sounds, engaging in songs and rhymes and nursery rhymes, and listening to stories. When the children are ready, Read, Write, Ink picture names for single letter sounds are introduced first before the phoneme and grapheme. So children learn the picture names for each single letter sound first of all. So here we have the example of N. They learn mountain before they would then go on to learn the phoneme M. Once the children enter Foundation Stage 2, FS2, we complete a baseline assessment to see where their sound knowledge is, and we group them accordingly. In the autumn term, Foundation children are grouped just within Foundation, just as they're getting used to that school environment. But from the spring term, we then group all lower children across from FS Year 1 and Year 2 into Read, Write, Ink groups to make sure all children are in the correct group. We assess every half term, but we do complete assessments much more frequently, as some children do progress quite rapidly on the Read, Write, Ink scheme. So, a Read, Write, Ink lesson, what does that look like? It's got 2 separate sections. We have a speed sound lesson, where the children learn to read a particular sound, And then depending on the point of their read writing journey, we have a word time lesson where we learn to blend, or if the children can blend, they then move on to a storybook lesson where they are applying those sounds into sentences. Speed sound lesson set 1 is very different to a speed sound lesson set 2 and 3. And storybook lessons run from ditty to grey. So here's an example of the set 1 single letter sounds and the very first introduction of special friends. Special friends is a read write ink term. It just describes digraphs, which is 2 letters together to make 1 sound. And this is an example of a set 1 speed sound lesson. So it's focusing on the oral aspect of saying the sound, and then it progresses on to looking at writing that letter as well. Here are the set 2 special friend digraphs. We also have some trigraphs, so 3 letters to make 1 sound introduced. We have I, fly, high, and that's not fair. Set 2 speed sound lesson is still focusing on the oral part, saying the sound. It's then applying that sound into words, and then read the green word cards, and then we then progress onto the grapheme and spelling the sound into a word, so using the grapheme and filling in. And then here are the set 3 special friends, digraphs and trigraphs again. When the children reach set 3, they begin to learn sounds. They begin to learn different representations for the same sound. So, for example, in set 3, they will learn E cup of tea, but in set 2, they will already have learned E what can you see. So it's just focusing on that a sound can be represented with different graphemes. And there's an example of a set 3 speed sound lesson, which is just the same as a set 2 speed sound lesson. We also teach additional sounds not included in the read write ink scheme, but also may appear on national tests like the phonics screening check. We teach those at the end to make sure the children have been taught all sounds they need to know. There is a sound pronunciation video which I'll show at the end of the PowerPoint, just to make sure you know how to say those sounds to help your child at home. So, timetable. Reading is the first subject that we teach, whether that's in Key Stage 1 or 2. So in Key Stage 1, read writing or reading is taught from 9 till 10. Key Stage 2 is 9 to 9:45. It's every day except from the day we have our head teachers assembly. So it's really important, and why we push on attendance so much, to make sure children are in school on time so they are not missing any key parts to their reading session. The read writing levels run from red ditty all the way to grey for storybooks. If children are beginning to blend, they like more on learning to put those sounds together, and magnetic letters supports that activity. So word time. Word time takes place after a speed sound session when children are learning to blend sounds together. Children begin with magnetic letters to develop blending, and when they can blend independently, it moves on to reading words and using green word cards from our read writing scheme. When the children can read those words, green word cards independently, and they begin to read words in sentences, they move on to the storybooks, and it starts from ditty, which is captions, and red ditty begins with sentences, and again that goes all the way to grey books before the children then do not need to be on read writing anymore because they've cracked the code. All of the storybooks and the text that we use in read writing are phonetically decodable. So we have a 3-read principle. When learning to read words, children follow 3 steps. Number 1 is Fred talk. So read writing has a little mascot called Fred. Fred only speaks in sounds. So if Fred was to speak, he would say at. We blend those sounds together to make the word cat. Number 2, Fred in your head. We're going to blend those sounds together in our head and then say the word out loud, cat. and then speedy read is reading those words speedily, cat. When learning to read sentences, children follow the same 3 steps. They're decoding first of all, identifying special friends, blending words together, then reading for fluency, reading words quickly, and then reading for comprehension, reading to check they understand the sentence they have read. Fluency is key. There's lots of research to show that rereading improves both fluency and comprehension skills. When children are decoding, whether that's with blending at the beginning of their journey or when they're beginning to read sentences, we have a huge focus on rereading. If they have decoded a word and not put it back together, we do make them reread it. Here's an example of the home reading books that we send home. So we send home a paper copy of the storybook they've been focusing on this week, and we also send the corresponding book back home as well, so children come home with 2 read-writing books, and these again are phonetically decodable and can be read independently by the children. We've recently begun to send home QR codes. These QR codes link to speed sound lessons that the children will have learnt that week. It's a really good reinforcement of the sounds they have had, and also it's a good way of showing you what a speed sound looks like. This year we are going to be sending out letters to inform you of your child's progress in read-writing. These are going to go out termly in autumn, spring and summer. We are also, alongside the letter, informing you of where your child is on their read-writing journey. We're going to send out some resources so you can support your child at home with these speed sounds. To develop fluency while the children are in the early stages of their reading journey, we will be launching a fluency challenge for children placed in orange and above read-writing groups. So this will be later on in the term. In addition to their reading books, children will also be given a timed repeated read sheet, which is an example just here. The children will have 1 minute to read as much of the passage as possible and try to beat their score the next day. So for example, on day 1 they might read it and they might just get to the word tray within 60 seconds. So the idea is to try and beat that and the next day get further on and read more words. The bit highlighted in yellow is where the expectation is of what they should be able to read in 60 seconds, but it's more about beating their own score than anybody else's. Research has shown that a key way to improve fluency is by rereading. So what happens next? Every child is different and works at their own pace. Once the phonetic code is cracked, whether it's in Key Stage 1 or Key Stage 2, then guided reading begins. We do have read-writing groups continuing into Lower Key Stage 2. Once a child reaches Year 5, then Fresh Start is introduced. And Fresh Start is just a more age-appropriate phonic scheme developed by Ruth Biggin for children in Year 5 and beyond, and a lot of secondary schools in our local area also teach Fresh Start. We also run one-to-one read-writing tutoring for children that need extra support. So guided reading, what is guided reading? Guided reading is a teacher-led reading session working on high-quality instructional texts. Children will develop their fluency and comprehension skills during this session and complete a follow-up activity. These sessions allow teachers to listen to children read individually. Biggin has worked with the school library service to develop a book spine to ensure we are exposing children to high-quality texts. Children will then complete a follow-up reading activity the next day. We're not working with a teacher in a guided group or completing an activity based on their teacher-guided group. The children will access Reading Plus on Chromebooks. Reading Plus is an online platform that encourages reading fluency and accuracy. The children choose their own texts, pitched at their own levels. So this is just an example of what the page looks like. Children get to choose whatever text they want to. They read through and they ask comprehension questions, and this information is all linked to the teacher's account, so the teacher is aware of how they are progressing. Reading Plus can also be accessed at home with the same school logins, and a lot of children do prefer reading Plus at home opposed to reading books. Once off Read, Write, Ink, children will begin their Oxford Reading Tree reading journey. The children will begin on stage 9 and work their way up the levels. Reading assessments in school will also be used to inform teachers of the correct stage your child should be on. This year we're going to reintroduce a Reading for Pleasure library within each classroom. This will be a text that your child will choose from a mini library in each class, and will need your support to read, as it will be at a more instructional level rather than phonetically decodable. We want to improve our reading for pleasure and to make sure children enjoy reading, and therefore we want them to start beginning to choose their own texts. So at Biggin, we promote a reading culture. Staff read to children daily. We have timetabled story time where we read key texts. Each year group has a set text that they read continually to show the children that text stories can be reread. They don't just need to be read once. We've introduced a reading shed as part of our Opal Playtime scheme, so children can access texts, and also staff do story time during lunchtime too. And texts are woven throughout the wider curriculum, so there's linked text to all of the subjects as well. So how to help at home. Listen to your child read, whether they come home with an Oxford Reading Tree book or a Read, Write, Ink book, when the fluency passages are launched. Watch video links that we send home with the QR codes. Support your children with their sound learning. Practice sounds at home, play oral blending games. Be Fred and sound out. Can your child put that back together, blend it back together? If they are on Reading Plus, help them access that at home. Read to your child, modelling is really key. Promote the love of reading and the importance of rereading. We need to get into the mindset that a book can be read more than once, rather than just reading the book and then not touching it again. Remember, the more we read it, the more we understand. If a child is reluctant to read at home, use positive encouragement. Try to find out what they enjoy the most. Do they enjoy being read to by you? Do they maybe enjoy going on Reading Plus? Do they have a particular book that goes home, like maybe the Read, Write, Ink book bag book that they're more interested in? To try and find something that they're more engaged in, rather than making them do access all of the things that we do send home. If you do have any questions, you can always speak to your child's class teacher. Thank you very much.